When I went to summer orientation, I met James and the excitement he had for something called Toastmasters and IREF. I didn't know what it was, but if someone could be that excited for it, I figured it would be good for me. Once summer bridge came around and I learned what Toastmasters and IREF was, I thought, what did I get myself into? IREF, or Indiana Reentry Facility, is a low-level security prison where inmates with good behavior and are close to their time of being released. IREF is one of the few reentry facilities that host Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a speaking group. Every other Wednesday, my group and myself would go to IREF where we would give speeches to the residents. Since it is a low-level security and we are trying to change biases towards inmates, we prefer to call them residents. People who were picked earlier in the week had to give a plain speech to the residents, and the residents also had people who would give a speech. To top it off, we had to do impromptu speeches. These are speeches that you're given a topic, and you have to give a 1 or 2 minute speech from the top of your head. When I eventually learned what we would be doing, I immediately regretted my decision. I thought, great, I have to go to a prison, give a speech to inmates who have created serious crimes because they're in prison, and what do they care? They shouldn't care what I have to say. I thought to myself, how are a bunch of prisoners able to even have this opportunity? Week after week, I felt myself change and thinking to myself, I can't believe I felt those things before. Finally, after the last week there, I realized my beliefs and how I saw residents had completely changed. I realized they are good people and they just made a mistake. They have a story to tell and the right to have that story told. IREF and Toastmasters, I believe, has changed my views and beliefs for the better and will make me a better student and police officer. I believe IREF has impacted me the most in my J101 class, or Intro to American Criminal Justice. Quickly, I learned those negative thoughts I had towards inmates and prisons was not because I'm a bad person, but because I have implicit biases. Implicit bias is the unconscious or unintentional thought or behavior towards a certain group, race, culture, or almost anything. Implicit bias is very different from racism, because racism is direct hate towards a group. Just because I or anyone else has these biases doesn't make us a bad person. If we learn about our biases and work on fixing them, it can make this world a better place. That is exactly what I did when I went to IREF. I made sure I was open-minded and made sure I heard the resident stories, if they cared to share. I made sure I saw their situation from their shoes and tried to understand what they were going through. One story that changed my biases came from a resident named Meezy. Meezy was a character. He knew how to make you laugh, cry, and laugh some more all in the same sentence. Meezy told me he came into the system at the age of 14. His dad handed him a gun, drugs, and told him to go to work. Something went wrong. Meezy got in a fight, the cops got called, and Meezy ended up spending the rest of his life behind bars. Luckily, the good news is Meezy was released last month. I just couldn't believe how a dad could give a 14-year-old drugs and a gun and tell him go to work. That is when I realized there's the other side to every story. Meezy was just a kid doing what his father told him to do. I was sad to hear this story. Since Toastmasters is made around giving speeches, it has impacted the way I give speeches. To start Toastmasters, I thought, great, I'm out of prison and I have to give speeches. However, surprisingly, I felt more comfortable giving a speech at IREF than I did in the classroom. The residents were welcoming, and just hearing them say good job or you can do it made me feel confident in my speaking capabilities. My public speaking was awful before I started speech class and Toastmasters. It was apparent at the start of the journey some of the residents' public speaking skills were not the best either. However, we worked as one and we grew as one. We critiqued each other in a respectful manner that allowed us to go back at night and review what we needed to work on. I believe one of the best benefits of Toastmasters is not for myself, but for what it has to offer to the residents. Having a skill of public speaking when getting released is a big deal, because when they get out, they're looking for a job. If a resident has been locked up for over 10 years with no speaking experience, they will struggle with an oral interview. With Toastmasters, it allows residents to get on their feet and speak to a group they aren't familiar with and make them more confident with how they deliver their words. Residents and students benefit from what Toastmasters has to offer. IREF has also impacted myself and my V100 class, or SPEA learning class. This class is like a freshman mentoring class. My goal once I get out of college is to be a police officer, and I've done several ride-alongs, and I started thinking all criminals are bad and they deserve to be locked up. Once I learned the stories of the residents, I realized they have a story, maybe a reason they committed a crime. They did. IREF didn't change the career I wanted to go into, but changed on how I act as an officer and to see the other side. I've stated before, when I started this journey, I didn't think a re-entry facility could change someone. After interacting and hanging out with the residents, I realized it does work, and a re-entry facility can change a person's life. The news just wants to broadcast the negative about everything. They need to do a nightly story on how impactful a re-entry facility is. I was also able to tell my family about IREF and Toastmasters, of how great of a program it is. Society portrays prisoners and prisons as animals beating down their cell ready to attack. I know IREF is a low level of security, but the residents were still respectful. I hope in the future I can be an advocate for IREF. I could see myself volunteering at IREF, or maybe even apply for a job as a correctional officer there. My doctor said I have grown 2 inches in the past 6 months, but because of this past semester, I have grown even more mentally. Yes, I do believe IREF has changed me for the better. It made me a better person, a better student, and one day a better police officer.